Hey everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, I'm joined by Josh.
Hello, man.
Hey fam, now last night were the video game BAFTAs, the UK British Academy Film and TV Awards, but the video game contingent of that thing.
The BAFTAs? BAFTAs?
It needs to be changed, to be honest. I mean, all we have in terms of award ceremonies are the VGX Awards, and this is about it. But it's a big old talking point because all the BAFTA judges get together and they nominate a whole bunch of different categories, ranging from best debut game to best British game to best game overall. And, you know, for the vast majority, they got them pretty spot on.
Yep.
Things like the best performance went to Melina Jurgens, who's the main character in Hellblade, which is great to see. Things like the best debut game went to Gorogoa, which is a really cool little like indie thing to do with perspectives and going between different art pieces.
I'll trust your word for that.
All that jazz. But the thing that the biggest talking point, or at least the two that I think we want to talk about the most, are two specific categories. One, the best evolving game, and the best game overall. So the best evolving game, the nominations were Clash Royale, Final Fantasy 15, Fortnite, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. You're a big Siege boy, and there's a lot of Siege players out there now. Now, do you know what they gave it to?
It was Overwatch.
It was Overwatch, and if you were talking about a best evolving game, the game that was given the most content, the most love, passion, the progression, the trajectory of a game, I think this should have been Fortnite by an absolute landslide.
I mean, Fortnite has taken over the world.
Yes.
Like, it spawned off a game that was never a Battle Royale game, but now everyone knows it as the Battle Royale game, I argue, even over PUBG.
PUBG.
One of them.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, Fortnite has taken over, like, the casual market.
Yeah.
And just blown up. But does that mean it's the best evolving game? How are they, what are the rankings?
Well, who knows what their criteria was.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's the thing, though. You think about the way that Fortnite went. Like, yes, you could tell that Epic looked at Bluehole and looked at PUBG and went, we can do that. And they apparently put together Fortnite's Battle Royale mode in 5 months.
Right.
So they went from an idea to, well, obviously it's a rip-off, to a Battle Royale mode to, you know, like you said, being dominating the world. Like, athletes play this. When people think of Fortnite, they think of Battle Royale. Even PUBG has had to put a smaller map in their game as a response to how big Fortnite's, you know, popularity has become. So you guys can let us know what you think down in the comments. I think it's, to me, well, only to me, it's obvious that Fortnite has had the biggest rise. Whereas Overwatch, like, yeah, they've done a few events and some skins, but what's changed in Overwatch, really? Like a handful of characters and a bunch of skins.
Here's the thing, though. Should have been Siege either way.
Well, that's another thing as well. Ubisoft, Siege is by and away Ubisoft's most impressive thing right now. Origins is doing very well too.
Yeah.
But the amount of goodwill around Siege, and that it seems to be, the last I checked, it's got like 30 million players, or it had 30 million units sold or something.
Right.
It's had a bit of a rise anyway. And like you are always playing it, and I've had a lot of people talking about it. And one of the articles that we did on this site, one of the videos that we did, like things only Siege fans understand, almost 1 million views.
It actually hit a million.
Has it hit a million?
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you, Siege people. But either way, again, like that points to another game that's got a lot of love, care, and attention, and a demonstrable change in where it come from and where it's ended up. But whatever, you guys can let us know what you think in the comments. Does Overwatch deserve to be the best evolved game? Let's get on to the big boys, the big main thing. So the nominations were, and apologies for just reading this off, Assassin's Creed Origins, Hellblade, Horizon Zero Dawn, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, and What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, do you know what they gave it to?
What Remains of Edith Finch.
Which is absolute fucking insanity. What?
The best. It's the best. It's the only choice in that situation.
But it's not at all. It's not. Okay, so the whole reason we did this video is because we'd have this discussion, because Edith Finch was one of Josh's favourite games last year. Strange you didn't put it on his nominations for the best games of the year when we did the thing.
I did.
Did you?
Yes.
I don't think we talked about
Oh, we did.
that. I don't think it made
It
the
got
top
kicked off.
10.
If I didn't put it on that list, it's because Scott wouldn't have let me put it on that list. That is the only reason why.
There was no authoritarian draconian rule. You could have done whatever you want. If it didn't make your top 10, that is only you to blame. But my whole thing with this is that I think demonstrably, easily, I'll just talk factually like an a-hole. And for me, it's obvious that something like Zelda or Horizon or even Mario should have been Game of the Year. As much as I love the things that Edith Finch did.
Very interesting that you missed Hellblade off there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest reason to enjoy Hellblade is the narrative or the cool audio tech that they did, and it got best sound design, which it more than and best performance. The best parts of Hellblade are arguably not the gameplay; it's the stuff around the sides. But you talk about something like Zelda, and we talked about this before, but like the whole idea of Zelda, the whole way that it guides you from content to content and thing to see, it all feels very natural. There's that whole like guiding hand kind of thing, but it's all very invisible. And at any given time, you can see things in the distance, you can see things you want to go and see. And they gave it best innovation. which is just like, which is really cool. Like, it's good to see that, but at the same time,
not best game design.
Not best game design. They gave that to Mario, which I not to be incredibly regressive, I see Mario Odyssey as a perfect 3D platformer with a lot of collectibles. I don't see why it's the best innovation. Sorry, best game design. Whereas like Zelda, I think that thing effortlessly takes you through its entire world without specifically checkpointing you stuff, that's a hell of an achievement. So yeah,
that is to me, that's world design though. I mean, we're sort of mixing up the categories here, but that is world design. And again, don't get me wrong, I am fighting for Edith Finch here, but I'm not necessarily saying it should have beaten Zelda.
No.
Zelda was an amazing, one of my favorite games of last year, easily one of my favorite games of like maybe the decade so far. It was incredible.
You said all time wrong, but close though.
It's brilliant. The world design, like you said, the way it guides you through is phenomenal. The quests themselves weren't so great. The combat themselves, it's all solid stuff around that world design.
Yes.
And for me, it didn't have that gut punch that Edith Finch had.
Do you not think though, if we're going to argue the specifics of if you're going to argue something like quest design and the mechanical progression of that game, do you not want to argue the fact that Edith Finch's cutaways weren't the most polished thing? Like we had that ragdolly shark falling down the hill. We had the rabbit. We had the owl in the sky. Yeah. We had like all these weird, we had the octopus thing that you got snagged on the environment when you're trying to go through it. Like if you're going to argue that it's the most polished thing, or
I'm not saying that.
Well, maybe not polished, but you're going to argue that every part of it is fleshed out. I like what Edith Finch does, but that cannery scene is like the only thing that I think is phenomenal, whereas the rest of it is like another walking.
In this category, I'm not saying that every single element of Edith Finch is like fleshed out. I'm saying it all contributes to sort of like an overall goal, whereas Zelda, for as great as it is, it's a lot of disparate parts. Ooh. And they're all really great. They're all really good and solid, but it never comes together to make a just.
Oh man!
Except the world. Let me get this straight. The world is great. I love Zelda. I don't love the quests in Zelda. I do not love the dungeons in Zelda.
I love the shrines.
I love being in that world. I've done it for like almost 100 hours.
Wait a minute, do you mean shrines or the boss dungeons?
Both. I love doing the shrines. I love doing the bosses, but there is the way they're designed is lacking. They're all very similar. I don't think I'm alone on this. Am I alone on this? Am I just wrong?
Yeah. The approach that they took for the shrines, obviously there's like 100 of them or something, was to take the old school approach to Zelda dungeon design and split that off. So instead of like doing a whole dungeon with a bunch of puzzles and push this box and activate this switch and fall through this level to get somewhere else, all of that is segmented off so that you get 100 different shrines. I like that one plays into the way that a lot of people play the Switch. It's a way of like doing a couple of shrines on a trip or something if you're playing handheld, or just the idea that it peppers the world. It keeps you going place to place, and you always know there's something nearby because the little rotary thing comes on. But to address your point, and plus, before we get, we're never going to draw any conclusions.
No.
You're a huge Edith Finch fan, I'm a Zelda fan, you comments can argue it out. But to address your point about the cohesion thing, about it not addressing the whole thing, I think Breath of the Wild, completely is about rediscovering the legend of Zelda and being the hero of Hyrule. Every single part of that is conducive to learning the skills inherent to the game. And the fact that it starts you out with everything, you're then given, whenever you think you're ready to take on Ganon, you can do that. You can do it after 15 minutes, well, half an hour after the tutorial. Or you can, wait until you've got the best armor and you've talked to everybody and have all the backup and do all that kind of thing. And that weird metatextual relationship that you have as you, the player, with the hero of Link, rediscovering all the lore, there's a whole amnesiac plotline with you discovering what the hell has happened in Hyrule. That was so cohesive. When it came to when I was finally going to Hyrule Castle and the actual score came back in, I was like, this is f***ing incredible. And I feel like I'm about to save the land and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Don't get me wrong, that is amazing. But I didn't feel like I was contributing to the Legend of Zelda when I was collecting 8 apples for a guy.
No one asked you to do that in a row.
What?
Why are you collecting? Wait, who was asking you to collect 8 apples in a row?
Someone just fetch quests. I was making a generalization of fetch quests because that's what a lot of the quests felt like to me. Except from taking down Ganon, doing that, like you said, was great. I'm never going to argue that The Legend of Zelda is a bad game.
True.
In the quests themselves, even though I think they're uninspired, are still solid. Everything about it is solid. I love it, but it's just I didn't feel like I was contributing to The Legend of Zelda when I was doing those sort of bare bones missions.
I would 100% agree with you if the game pushed you in any way towards that stuff. I think the game more naturally pushes you towards the shrines, rediscovering who you are, talking to the NPCs, going to the different cities and villages, and talking to those characters, and then filling in the backstory of what's happened in between and who you are. I mean, you can even discover Zelda herself's diary, which fleshes out Link's personality for one of the first times ever, and that stuff's great. But whatever, let's talk a little bit about Edith Finch negatives, because that I think should have won. I know they barely existed, but there's one of them somewhere. That didn't win Best Innovation, which I would have given it to, because the cannery scene in Edith Finch, it's going to have to be spoilers, the bit where you're playing one of the members of the Finch family as he slowly like daydreams more and more and starts to live in this like dream world. The way that plays out in the game is the controller is separated.
Yes.
Obviously you know this, but like the whole point of that is that you start to play the real world where you're in this mundane job and you're working at a cannery and you're cutting the heads off fish and putting the bodies like to the side or whatever. Do fish have bodies?
Yeah.
Fish corpses to the side. And increasingly, obviously, you know, the mundanity of this makes this guy lose himself in this dream world of like kingdoms and like fantastical things. And the way that comes across is your controller slowly starts to be taken over by more movement, so that you're always doing, like, I think you're always doing two things with the triggers, but the actual movement is you in your head.
Yeah.
So you're still, it's literally like playing a daydream.
Yes,
or like,
it is.
And it's great. That is phenomenal. Brilliant. Like you genuinely feel like you're doing the basic thing, but I'm having fun with this other thing, and it's like playing a daydream. That thing is by far for me the biggest innovation, alongside the other cutaways that they do with the animals and stuff. And I think that should have won Best Innovation, and Zelda should have got Best Game overall.
This is the thing. This is what's interesting about me, because I love Edith Finch, and I don't think it should have got Best Innovation.
Really?
That bit what you said there is great.
Uh-huh.
I love what they've done to sort of push the walking simulator genre to as potentially as far as it can go. You know, it's way more gameplay focused than something like Gone Home.
Yes.
But Nier Automata was also in that category, which I would have given Best Innovation to.
Yeah, and that's potentially like a whole other discussion, because I think Nier Automata does some phenomenal stuff with its root C and with the whole fourth wall breaking stuff, and what does it mean to, you know, be human in digital streams of information, and how they make that a playable thing. Like, you have the option to literally become a digital stream of information.
Yes.
That is great, and it makes you kind of, you know, question humanity and replications of humanity and all that, sentience and all that kind of stuff. But
lest we forget about The Legend of Zelda, which I could have also, well, it did win, and I can see why it won, because of what you said about the world design. We've got so accustomed to what an open world game is, where you've got this checklist of things to do, and you just do it, and you're not really interacting with anything.
True.
But you really interacted with the world in Zelda, which, for as uninspired as I thought some of the elements in that game was, the world definitely wasn't.
I'll give you the stealth mission, which absolutely sucks ass, where you've got, if you get seen, you get stuck back to the beginning, you've got to sneak in past those guys with the swords.
God, yes.
That sucked ass, but like the absolutely everything else is the most natural, pure, just like childhood connoting nostalgia, encapsulating perfection that I've played in a long time. And like I said, I mean, you'd have to drill down the literal specifics of like, well, it's a game and not a movie, and blah blah, and like actually like pick apart thematics and how they're coded and all that kind of crap. But if we're going to award the best game, my take will always be Zelda, and yours will always be Edith Finch. And so that's kind of where we are at this. But it is worth talking about, because for the longest time, well, when they announced their nominations, Edith Finch felt like the outlier. And there's part of me that goes like, well, there are a bunch of critics that are going to give it to Edith Finch because it feels like the critics' choice. But I just think that Zelda should have won, or Mario, or Horizon.
I didn't see Edith Finch winning. I thought if anything had a chance that wasn't a big like AAA game, it would have been Hellblade. Because they gave the BAFTAs gave Hellblade Best British Game.
Yes.
Gave Melina Jurgens Best Performer.
Best sound design.
But then just didn't give it Best Game. In what remains of Edith Finch just came out of nowhere. Which I'm quite pleased about, because it's nice to see that game get recognition, but I'm like, how did they come to this conclusion? You know?
Well, that's the thing. I always wonder with these things whether they do just pick something a little bit out of left field, because it gets these kind of conversations going, which ultimately is a good thing. People should talk about these games more and try and flesh out why they like them and don't like them. That stuff is always interesting to do.
Because they're all great games.
Yeah, exactly. Like, at the end of the day, they're all fantastic. And that's one of the things that, if anything, it's only going to highlight the pros and cons of all of these games, which hopefully have more pros than cons. But either way, we'll kind of end this by saying that I absolutely adore Breath of the Wild. It was robbed. Holy hot damn, it's ridiculous.
And I absolutely love Breath of the Wild, but Edith Finch is just so good.
But you guys let us know what you think down in the comments. Should Zelda have won, or does Edith Finch deserve its #1 spot? Regardless, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I will catch you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.